Hey, everybody. Big show today. Special guest, Rapheal Davis, Boilermakers legends on the show. We're going to talk about Johnny Davis, Keegan Murray, Jaden Ivey, and really get into college basketball as a whole. Super excited for this one. Glad to have everyone on board, and we'll get into it right after this.
You are Locked On Badgers, your daily podcast on the Wisconsin Badgers. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hey, everybody. Welcome to Locked On Badgers. As I mentioned, special guest today, Rapheal Davis. We're going to bring him in right now. Rapheal Davis, Boilermakers legend, joining the show. Super excited to have him. Big Ten Defensive Player of the Year, two-time Sports Illustrated, all-glue guy. And Rapheal, I want to ask you this really quick. Do you know that you are one of 8 Boilermakers players with 1,000 career points, 500 career rebounds, and 200 career assists?
I do. I'm not even one of those guys that's going to act like I don't know that. I didn't know it when I played. I found out a couple years after I played, they released like a top 50 players in Mackey, of Purdue, that played in Mackey, and I saw my name on the list. So I was happy for myself. I was proud of myself. I don't want to look kind of if I deserved to be there. So that was one of the stats I came across.
That's awesome. Where were you on that list? Just out of curiosity.
It's alphabetical order. So
Okay.
My last name is Davis, so I'm pretty high at the top.
Okay. Very deserved, by the way. Always been a big fan of watching you play. I think you're a culture setter, one of the type of players that comes into a program and really created something that lasted for a long time. And that Purdue culture is still so impressive, right? It's still maintained. And also on BTN now. So we watch your takes there. And that's one of the reasons I really wanted to have you on is this was a crazy Big Ten basketball year, right? And I want to start with, it's a Wisconsin show. I kind of want to start with Johnny Davis. What about Johnny Davis? And I kind of want to go a little deeper than just the surface, kind of the athleticism. What about him makes him a little unique as a college basketball player?
He has that competitiveness, that fire, that desire still that you will see in that old school Big Ten basketball player from the 90s, the early 2000s that's just going to fight and just have a strong will. I mean, you see, I was at the Northwestern game at Northwestern. He gets hit in the nose, he starts bleeding, and like he doesn't ask for a sub, he asks for the ball. Like he was like, just give me the ball, I'm gonna go score, I'm gonna go create something else. They're gonna have to call it this time. So he just has that type of fire that some guys at this point in the game, at this day and age, just can't compete with that, just on a mindset level. And then his ability to score the basketball, like you said, with his athleticism, obviously, but his mid-range game was pretty impressive all season long. Just being able to put you on the island and go get a bucket. That's what I think separates him and a lot of guards within the country, just being able to just flat out, I'm going to get to my spot. I could jump higher than you. My shot's going to get off. I'm going to score the ball. His ability to finish at the rim was high level. But then he was a guy that did it on both ends of the court. I mean, I've seen him as, if not one of the better two-way guards in the country, because he could do it on both ends. You see him frustrate guards like Jaden Ivey in that first matchup in Mackey. You see him get game-winning stops against teams, against Minnesota, things of that sort. So when it's time to win a game offensively, you can give him the ball. He could take over no matter what type of game he's having. I mean, forget who they were playing at home, but he was struggling all game. He was rebounding all game, but he was struggling offensively. Then he had like 10 straight points, ended up with like 16 and 16. So let's say he has that knack ability offensively to get it going at any point. But you can also put him on the opposing best player and say, go get me a stop to win the game. So having those intangibles makes him special. But I think his ability to fight through adversity, not cry, not pout, and just get through things, it's really impressive. Obviously I'm not a doctor. I wasn't in the locker room, but it just didn't seem like he looked himself after he had that injury at the end of the season. So, it's tough for him to have to play on that ankle, on that leg after that to finish out the year, but it was special to watch.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think the ankle, he never got back to 100%. And he battled through it, but he was never there. I kind of want to talk to you about this, because we see it a lot with really good players, star players offensively, who I don't want to say coast defensively, but even in the NBA, players that have to carry such a workload offensively really struggle sometimes applying that same type of work defensively. And you hit on it. I don't think we saw that with Davis. And I think that type of intangible at the NBA level is going to be really, really intriguing for guys where you can plug this dude in. He's going to play both ways right away. It's not something you got to coach up. Is that something, and just some of the players, you played with some great players at Purdue as well, and you've been around a lot of great players. How hard is it for guys carrying that offensive workload to also play defensively at that level?
At the NBA level or at the college level?
Either. Yeah, either.
Well, but the college level, I would say A.J. Hammonds did a great job of it. I mean, I was Defensive Player of the Year in 2015. He was Defensive Player of the Year in 2016. I give him a lot of credit for being the reason I was Defensive Player of the Year. When you have a shot blocker behind you, you can guard a little harder on the perimeter. But, I mean, he was our go-to on both ends of the court. I mean, he carried it well. He got the ball. I mean, he knew his job. I think at that point, when you know you're the best player on the team, you just kind of do your job. You just kind of come to work every day, and a lot is expected out of you. When the guys are going from college to the NBA, I think that's one of the first questions is, who do they guard at the next level? So I never played at the NBA level, so I can't know what goes into that. But I guess what goes into basketball preparation. But who do you guard at the next level? I think Johnny Davis is one of those guys that he can guard a 2-guard, he can guard a point guard, he maybe can guard a smaller 3. So his defense translates. And I think when you get a guy that maybe carried the offensive load in college but coast on the defensive end, it starts to show in the NBA, and you don't stick. If you're not a guy that's averaging 20, 25 points a game, you've got to play defense, and I think it starts to show at that level.
Let me ask you about Johnny Davis. He didn't shoot it really well from deep this year. He's about 30% from 3. But is there going to be – I don't want to say it's going to be easier in the NBA. Obviously, you're going to be playing different caliber of athletes. The wings in the NBA are ferocious. They're ridiculous long athletes. But towards the end of the season, Johnny Davis had so much defensive attention on him. Every pick and roll they were running, teams would just blitz him, get the ball out of his hands. Is there going to be almost in a way coming onto an NBA team where he's going to be maybe the 3rd, 4th, 5th, 6th option, right? Is that going to help open some stuff up for his game, or am I maybe reading too much into that?
No, he's going to have more space to play in the NBA. I mean, he won't have the ball in his hands as much as he did at Wisconsin. Well, depending on what situation he goes into, we don't know. But I'm not guessing he'll have the ball in his hands as much as he did at Wisconsin. Guys will be creating shots for him instead of him having to create his own. So he will have, especially if he plays with a good big man, he'll get those open looks from 3. I mean, I'm sure they're putting a lot of time, him and his camp, putting a lot of time in his jump shot right now going into the draft. So I'm sure he'll be able to knock down open ones. So, yeah, I think he'll get more open ones in the NBA coming in. If he starts knocking them down, it'll get limited. But I think coming in, he'll get some open ones to prove he can shoot it a little bit. I think he shoots it better than his percentage. It's just me. Mm-hmm. He's a guy, especially he can get going. If he makes a couple, he's going to make a few. But like I said, I think they're putting a lot of time into that in this offseason, going into this draft, and I think he'll be all right. But I do think he'll get more open looks.
Let me throw you a comp out there, and you tell me if I'm crazy or if you think I might be onto something with Johnny Davis, okay? Because I've had people tell me I'm crazy on this one. When I watch him play with the mid-range game, the swagger, the competitiveness, I see a little bit of Devin Booker. Am I insane in saying that? I mean, Devin Booker would be the ultimate. Like, he's not going to be Devin Booker, right? I'm not saying that, but I see shades of that type of game. Am I way off base here, or is there something there that you see?
I guess I would say with the handle and his ability to go get like a mid-range jumper, those things are pretty similar. They both can handle the ball and go get a shot. I think Devin Booker is one of the guys like a DeMar DeRozan where their mid-range game is kind of their go-to. They can get to 10, 12 foot, knock down a jumper. They have good footwork. So I think in that aspect offensively, yes, because they both get in the half-court setting, the shot clock going down. You can just get out the way. Not a lot of guys you can just get out the way and they go get a bucket, and it's not a forced bad three-pointer that might go in. Like, and I'm not talking about the like double step back, like those type of threes. I'm talking about just going to get you a fundamental pull-up jump shot. And those two guys, I think it's similar in that aspect.
What's the biggest hole in his game right now? Is it just the shooting, or is there something else you look at with Johnny Davis where it gives you a little bit of pause?
No, I just think it's and I wouldn't even say it's a hole because I do think he can shoot the basketball. I do think he can make shots. I think that will show at the next level. Like you said, he will get more open looks to show that he won't have the stress on his legs from carrying a team like he did at Wisconsin. So I think he makes shots. So I think if there's one thing that people will want to see him do or prove going into the draft, going into his rookie season, would be to make shots at a high level. I mean, 36 to 40% from three.
Okay. Hey, coming up next, guys, we're going to get into Jaden Ivey, Keegan Murray, and where these trio kind of rank against each other. Continue with this awesome interview with Rapheal Davis. But first, today's show is brought to you by Built Bar. Built Bar is the one of the best nutritional tools that we found. If you want to look like Rapheal Davis, you got to eat a little better. Get that Built Bar. Go to the gym. Throw it in your backpack. They come in tons of different flavors, tons of different varieties. Really, everything you need to kind of get on this fitness journey that we're all trying to get a little better at. Built Bar is a high protein, great tasting, 100% chocolate bar. Every bar is 17 grams of protein. And you get the variety pack. You get 12, 13 different flavors. Mint brownie, coconut cream, banana cream pie, cinnamon churro. Over and over again, it does not disappoint. Again, they have built this community around a way to help people get healthy, a way to help people with their nutritional needs. It's easy, it's simple, it's inexpensive, it costs less than your cold brew habit. And it's something that we've been all about. It's something that we found a lot of success with. So go to Built Bar, built.com, use promo code LOCK15 and get 15% off your order. That's promo code LOCK15 for 15% off your order at built.com. Thanks again for making Locked On Badgers your first listen every day. Coming up April 28th, tuned into Locked On NFL Draft's live coverage of the 2022 NFL Draft with 3 days of real-time analysis from our extensive lineup of experts and insiders. That is Locked On NFL Draft Live starting April 28th. And more coming up right now with Rapheal Davis as we have him on the show. And again, super stoked for this. Really appreciate the time. I was watching you on Twitter, right? That sounds creepy. I was following you on Twitter and you were on Jaden Ivey, I feel like before the national media caught on, right?
Right.
I think you were all over what he was going to become. Can you give me what did you see early on? I think the athleticism was obvious, but a lot of players have athletic tools that are unique. What did you see early on that made you plant that flag in Jaden Ivey?
I mean, say I played for the same AU program that he played for, Indy Heat, out of Fort Wayne, Indiana. He's not from Fort Wayne, but he played for that program on the EYBL circuit. So I got to see him in high school. I know it's the coaches that coached him. I got to hear about him and hear kind of his makeup in a sense. And then I talked with Coach Payne about him. And sounds cliche, but I've never heard Coach Payne lie to me. And I know Coach Payne has a high regard for talent. He thought he would be a pro. This is when he was 17, before he had even committed to Purdue. And then when you watch him, even at that age, I remember they came down to Atlanta, and his mom was at the game, and you watch him, and just the way he floats on the court is just goes above athleticism. I mean, guy just sometimes he's running, it's like his feet's not touching the ground. But then his ability and at that time he was skinny, but just being able to drive the lane, go finish with the trees, he could make shots. And then he had a work ethic that, I mean, you just see it in guys. Like you see it in the Caleb Swanigan, who was homeless in the 8th grade and just worked. And there's some guys that's just gonna work their way there. And I mean, to see guys, you can see the difference when, I mean, even with me, I never did it. You see a guy play a game, play 25, 30 minutes, is gonna go hit the court or go hit the weight room right after the game in their game shorts. And that was him, his freshman season, his sophomore season. You win a game, you lose a game, he go back out there, get shots up. If he didn't shoot it well, if he shot it well. So you see those type of habits and that work ethic. And then you understand kind of how Paint is as a coach. And if you're doing those type of things and you're talented, you're going to get the opportunities. So he just was just a talented guy, always super athletic, like you said. But just I think his 1-2 and his edge and that kind of that swagger about him, just that toughness is just nobody was going to deny it. And then I think playing with the USA team and just playing with those guys and being one of the better players, if not the best player on the team, it gave him just a confidence level that just no one could compete with. He's super super confident, and I think that goes into his skill set.
Yeah, I agree with a ton of that. And I made a comment to someone else. Ivy, out of the three we're going to talk about, right? We have Keegan Murray from Iowa. We just talked about Johnny Davis, Wisconsin, Jaden Ivey, Purdue. Out of those three, I feel like Ivy's the one you don't have to squint with a little bit if you're going to look at a future potential NBA star, right? I think Ivy is he has an NBA type game right now with the pull-up threes, the athleticism, coming off pick and roll, getting downhill. I think the other two you have to squint a little bit more if you're trying to see like an NBA all-star type path. But I do want to get your take on, if you put on your NBA GM hat, the draft is coming up. All these three had incredible college careers. How would you rank them if you were starting an expansion team? You have nobody on your roster. How would you rank these three players?
I'm going Jaden Ivey, Keegan Murray, Johnny Davis.
Okay.
That'll be my three.
So I agree with you. I think Ivy, to me, is in a tier by itself. I think he's above, head and shoulders, and not to disparage anything. I just think he has athletic skills and an NBA game a little more advanced than Murray and Davis. Why Murray over Davis? Where do you see the separator there? And I guess that's probably pretty close.
Well, I wouldn't even put Jaden in a different tier in a sense. I say him too because he could sell tickets. So if I'm starting an expansion team, I want somebody that's electric, that I could put fans in the body. I get some social media clicks. I like it. He's got all the connections. It's a great story. And just his athleticism, I like that. I think his athleticism separates him. I think Keegan might be the most NBA ready out of the three. Just I don't see a hole in his game. He could play the three. He could play the four a little bit. He might could play a little bit of two if he could guard. But he could shoot it. I mean, he had 60 minutes of basketball this season between, I forget the two games, but he scored 66 points. And another guy on his team had 30 in one of those games. Jordan Bohanna did at Maryland. So his ability to fit within a scheme, a guy can go off and have a great game around him, and he only needs about 10, 12 shots to get 20, 25 points. He's super efficient. He defends on both ends. He can block shots and guard a perimeter. He's another guy that just simply, they play Minnesota, Jamison Battle gets 20. He wins that matchup. Or they play Rutgers at Rutgers, and Ron Harper Jr. wins that matchup. In those rematches, defensively, he took that personally. Obviously what they did to Rutgers in the Big Ten tournament, then what they did to Minnesota after that next game, both of those guys struggled. He wanted those matchups. So I think his skill level and just his ability to be simple but be effective at any time, any place. That's why I think he didn't get the national attention, just because he was so simple, and he just, gets you 20, gets you 25 and 12 without looking like he's sweating.
It's kind of quiet, right? A quiet 20 and 12.
It's just just gonna get you 20 and 12. It's really not gonna be any. He might get it in the first half and then not really do much, but I think he can really affect at the next level. But I will put him he's bigger, he's longer, he play more positions. But Johnny Davis is not. It's not like they're all gonna be top 10 in my opinion. So it's not like Johnny Davis gonna be second round or anything to me. But I think his ability, those Jaden Iveys and Keegan Murray's, they've already proved they can make shots at a high level from the perimeter. I think that's probably the thing that separates them from Johnny Davis to me.
Yeah,
Johnny Davis with me, I don't think you could. If a team drafted Johnny Davis before they drafted Jaden Ivey, I wouldn't be surprised. So right. I don't think they're that far apart, because I think Johnny Davis separates himself from Jaden Ivey in the sense of going to get a basket. If you clear me out, go get a basket. Although Jaden Ivey has proven he can do it, game winners, I think I like Johnny Davis's post-up ability as well. Just kind of, I don't need the ball to dribble. You post me up, you can run me off of sets, run me off of screens. I think his half-court offensive game is a little bit better than J.I.'s right now. I think Jaden Ivey's transition, open court, maybe ball screen game, I think that is better than Johnny Davis's.
Murray to me feels like, and I'm going to agree with a lot of what you said with Murray, he feels like a guy that there's some like Al Horford type in his game, right? Where maybe not that same type of body, but a guy who's going to do everything really well. He's going to be on a winning team. You can slot him in.
Right.
He's going to make a bunch of winning plays, right? He can
Yeah.
guard a bunch of different dudes, hit open shots. He just feels like a winning player in today's NBA.
Yeah, exactly.
That every team could use a dude like that, right? And he's never going to be the best player on the team, but he's going to be a valuable player on whatever team he goes to. Kind of a Shane Battier type player, even.
Yeah, I think so. Now he can adapt, play different roles. He can make shots from the perimeter, so he can stretch the floor. He's super athletic. I don't think people give him credit enough for being as athletic as he is. I think people take away from his length. So he could defend if he is going to be a 3-and-D type of guy. He can handle the basketball. He can post up. He offensive rebounds at a really high level. So he just brings a lot of just intangibles. He's a guy that just doesn't even – I think he went this whole season without taking a bad shot.
Probably, yeah.
And not too many guys you can look at the average is 24, 25 points. He just doesn't take a bad one. Even when he has 36, 35 points, it's like he's just doing it the right way. And I don't think that changes going to the next level. I think it's harder to get guys to take bad shots than it is to try and get good guys to end up taking good shots.
Yeah, I think you're probably dead on with that. All right, we got one more segment, guys, coming up. We're going to talk about some of the Purdue-Wisconsin battles with Rapheal Davis, maybe Sam Dekker, Frank Kaminsky, some really good teams that went at each other in those games. But first, today's show is also brought to you by Rock Auto. Rock Auto is the easiest and simplest way to buy auto parts, car parts in 2022. You use your phone, you go to the website, you drill down to exactly what you need. You never have to go to a store and talk to some guy who doesn't care about what you need, may not have the part you need in the warehouse, and is going to upcharge you anyway. Sometimes 30, 50 to 100% more than what you would buy on Rock Auto. There's no need to do it anymore. You don't have to. Stay at home, save the trip to the store, buy what you need. It's a family-operated business. Rock Auto's been doing it for 20 years, reliably low prices for every customer and whatever you need. I've used this to get parts for my Jeep Compass, my 2011, that I've told you guys is always in the shop. Rock Auto is a lifesaver for me. You go there, put in exactly what you have, what you need. They tell you the lowest price you can get, and then they ship it to you. It's perfect for do-it-yourselfers, or you can bring that part to a shop, and some shops will put it in for you. Go to rockauto.com right now. See all the parts available for your car or truck. If you write Locked On in there, how did you hear about a section, they will know we sent you. You will not regret it. It's the easiest way to buy car parts in 2022. Amazing selection, reliably low prices, all the parts your car will ever need, rockauto.com. And coming back into this, guys, we still have Rapheal Davis. We're going to get a little bit into some of the Wisconsin-Purdue battles from those really good teams that we threw at them. All right, Rapheal, last thing I really want to talk to you about. You were at Purdue for really what I would consider the best Wisconsin teams of the modern generation. The 2014, 2015, the 2015, 2016 Wisconsin teams, those teams went to the Final Four. The 2014-15 team lost the national championship game. Defensively, what was, and I'm putting you kind of on the spot here, but what was kind of the game plan going into that? I know for a lot of those games you guarded Sam Dekker. Was there a player on Wisconsin, and those were pretty loaded teams, but how did you guys defensively go into those games? What was your plan of attack for those?
Well, it's not even necessarily about who you guard when you play Wisconsin, because Sam Dekker, you look at Tyler Wall. I mean, even though Bo Ryan was there, Greg Gard was there as well. So still essentially the same role. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Like, that was at the time when Wisconsin, you turn the ball over, you come out the game. So you knew if you got Sam Dekker to turn the ball over, he's gonna get a sub. I mean, here comes Doogie Duncan coming in the game. He's another NBA player. So you're not necessarily personnel wise. I mean, Sam Dekker didn't shoot it that well from three. You knew he could make shots, so you knew his personnel what he liked to do. But one thing I guess about that team, you put a guard on Frank Kaminsky. You can't put A.J. Hammonds on Frank Kaminsky. So you put a guard on Frank Kaminsky, which was Vince Edwards. He played our forward position.
Mm-hmm.
He was a guard. But you let A.J. guard through Nigel Hayes. So you have that matchup schematically, but Wisconsin's not going to beat themselves no matter who they're playing, no matter who they have on the roster. you got to understand they're not going to take bad shots. You're not going to bait them into much. They're not going to turn the ball over. Sometimes, depending on who they have on the roster, like that team, they offensive rebound at a high level. They hit the glass. Some teams they have just get back. So defensively, you just knew it would be a fight. I mean, I would guard Frank Kaminsky if he got going. I mean, I'm guarding a 7-footer that could post, that could shoot, that could do different things. That three-headed monster of Hayes, Dekker, Kaminsky, I mean, they were just tough. It was just a tough – because you put A.J. Hammonds on Nigel Hayes, and then Nigel Hayes can make threes. He can stretch you out. They start running ball screen stuff. And with him in a pick-and-pop situation, it's tough to guard. And then at that time, you have Bronson Koenig coming off the bench, and he was honestly my favorite Wisconsin. He might be one of my favorite guys I played against.
So I wanted to ask you about him. So this is great. Yeah, why was he one of the favorite guys you played against?
Oh, he was a dog. Like, I got a lot of pushback when people would say like Wisconsin hasn't had a guard like Johnny Davis in a long time, or they haven't had a guard be able to go get a bucket. They just are disrespecting Bronson Koenig to me, because I played against him. I seen what he did against PJ Thompson when we played. I don't know if he scored. I don't know his point. I just know what it looked like, and I know what a dog looks like. And he had that swag that was different at Wisconsin. That energy that was a little different. He could shake and bake. He could go get a bucket, even as a freshman coming off the bench. That next year he really got it going. But I think he's a piece that not a lot of people give a lot of credit to, especially when you think about, I mean, Chucky Hepburn was great this season. I mean, I was pushing for him to be all freshman team all season. He was great. He could have been freshman of the year, and I wouldn't have batted an eye. Just kind of what you don't expect that from a freshman at Wisconsin, but even a freshman in the Big Ten, they struggled. He was consistent. But Bronson Koenig, to me, had an impactful freshman season at Wisconsin. Although he didn't start, I think he was a guy that came in, just gave a different type of energy. And that next year, I think he got even better. So I appreciated his game. But obviously, I mean, he played with 3 NBA players too, but I appreciated his game as a guard at Wisconsin. I think he gets overlooked sometimes. But, I mean, you have Duncan coming off the bench. I could be saying his last name wrong, but
Dukin. But yeah,
Dukin.
Yeah,
sorry.
I mean, your memory's spot on. No, your memory's spot on though.
Yeah, he's coming off the bench, and I don't think a lot of people even remember he went on to be an NBA player. His skill level was just different. You got that type of talent and those type of bigs. I mean, they were tough, even defensively with the type of, like I said, Wisconsin's not going to change much defensively with kind of like that pack line defense. Let you shoot, let you beat yourselves if you a guard. Wisconsin beats a lot of teams because if you're a guard and you have an ego and you're missing shots and you know you can make shots, they're just going to let you keep shooting them. Like you saw that against Indiana. They just let their guards just keep shooting them, and they shot them out of the game, and Wisconsin went on to win the game. It was even times where I think Chucky Hepburn could be Defensive Player of the Year in the league. But I don't know if he'll get it at Wisconsin because you see times where Greg Gard will, because it's their defense, he would just send them back to feet under the three-point line, especially if the guard couldn't shoot. So he's not out there pressuring a lot of the times. He can do it. They do it sometimes, but you see him like kind of calling off the dogs at points. But Wisconsin team just structurally where when they were picked 10th in the league, and everybody can have a bad year, but I understood, I mean, you get a team with that type of discipline and structure, and I knew Johnny Davis was, you don't make obviously no one could expect the year he had, but you don't make the USA team without being pretty good. Like they're just not handing out spots. You know what I mean? So, they have that type of talent that can compete at that level. You give them a good system with a good senior and Brad Davison, who was one of the better super seniors across the country, and then Tyler Wall, his emergence. It was a makeup for a good team.
Hey, I want to get you out of here on just a couple more really quick questions because you've been so gracious with your time, and I really appreciate it. I heard a really interesting comment from JJ Redick on his podcast. I wanted to get your take on this really quick. He said the way college basketball is played right now, it's still kind of stuck in the 80s, the 90s. It hasn't evolved the way the NBA has evolved. Is that something that you see in terms of spacing, or it was an interesting comment to me? And just as someone who watches the game a ton and someone who's a basketball guy, I just was curious to pick your brain on that and just kind of open-ended.
Well, the rules are different. Like, if I'm not mistaken, you can 3 seconds in the lane. I think that's a big difference maker when you think about the spacing of the league. Defensively, you have to space. In the college basketball, you could put Isaac Haas right at the rim and guard the basket. You know what I mean? So I think that's a big difference. But I think the skill levels are – I mean, you get the 12th man on the NBA roster. This is going to be probably All-American in college or could have, you know what I mean? Just more times than not, those are the highest level. You watch those guys. I don't know if you ever seen a pregame NBA workout where those guys that don't play as much are out there shooting.
They're banging shots.
Yeah, they're not there shooting shots. Like,
they're banging shots.
They might go 10 minutes without missing. Right. So it's not like they're scrubs. So I would say the skill level is definitely different. But I think the mid-majors have adapted to more of an NBA style play because of the guard games. I think the NBA is more guard driven. Where like a Joel Embiid's first time someone's averaged 30, a big man's averaged 30 points since the 80s. So I think the NBA now is more guard driven. Like you see in the NCAA tournament, it's guard games. And you see a team like St. Peter's, they win some games, they got good guards, they have athletic bigs. Where you see, like, and you think of the Big Ten, specifically the Big Ten, I think the Big Ten is exactly what JJ Redick is mentioning. I think coaches in the Big Ten, and no fault to them, I think they recruit to win the Big Ten. And I think the Big Ten has this demeanor, has this aura about it where it's not going to change. So you recruit to win the Big Ten. Like you see a Michigan struggle in this year's Big Ten. They struggle. But they go in a big NCAA tournament. They have good guards. They're quick. They're fast. They can run up and down. Musa Diabate can guard different positions. They win games. They get to Sweet 16. But you see a team like a Rutgers. I mean, you think about the bigs across the league, Kofi Cockburn, All-American, Dickinson, All-American. But, I mean, Cliff would probably be the NBA player out of that group. Think about how the NBA has changed and 20 years ago. Yeah. Kofi, Zach, those guys are first rounders now. Cliff has a chance. Yeah. So I think the game is definitely changing that way. And I think that's the reason Rutgers fought within the Big Ten. It had some Big Ten type of players, but they also had guys that could run up and down, like spread the floor, things of that sort. So I think you think of those things and you think of how the Big Ten, when they do struggle in March, it's those teams that maybe have one guy. Like having Johnny Davis is great, but when you get into the NCAA tournament, normally teams that make it to the Final Four, they have 2-3 Johnny Davis. I mean, Duke had three first-round draft picks. So I think you look at that Wisconsin team, both of those teams that went to a Final Four, they had 4 NBA players. Right. Nigel Hayes played in the NBA. I think you need those type of guys at that level, but that just goes back to skill set. But I do think the Big Ten, I don't think it's holding them back from getting to a Final Four because I think the March Madness is kind of who you play, when you play them, matchups. Who's healthy. But I do think exactly, and I do think the Big Ten is a conference as a whole that kind of has that old school feel to it.
I blame you partly for that. You helped establish some or continue some of that culture. You were one of the first. I mean, I always look at you and guys like you as being 3-and-D guys, like, modern. That was kind of beginning an era where you could guard a bunch of dudes. You had games where you went flamethrower. I mean, I remember a game, I think it was against Michigan State, where I don't know, you dropped like 25 in the first. I mean, maybe it wasn't 25, but you were just on fire in that game. That game got close at the end, by the way. But you were a 3-and-D guy, and I think you kind of fit that modern style of evolved basketball. But I want to kind of get you out. I know I've already had you for more time than I said I would. I have a bunch more questions. But where can people find you? Is there anything you're working on now, to get you out of here? And
you can find me on Twitter, Rapheal Davis 3. At Rapheal Davis 3, then on Instagram, Rapheal Davis. But right now, I started a nonprofit a couple years ago. We have basketball camps in different cities and inner city communities where I think youth basketball has kind of turned into a middle class, if not upper middle class sport, if you're really trying to do it the full experience. I mean, AAU teams are 15.
They are
$1,000 a year. I mean, it's just, or even not even just for the year, for the season. And training is super expensive. I mean, and I'm a trainer, so I'm kind of fighting against myself, but trainings is at $50, $60 an hour. I mean, leagues are expensive. Camps are $300 with guys that maybe never even hooped before at a high level. So I think that, I mean, not even think, that's the reason kind of we started that. And myself, my wife, Lewis Jackson, who's a point guard at Purdue, a couple other my former teammates, a couple other my AAU teammates played at a high level. We have camps at an inexpensive price. Like we just had our camp in Fort Wayne, Indiana for spring break. We had 100 kids come out to camp. We had 40 kids come for free. We raised money for them.
That's awesome.
Kids that normally can't. I mean, like I had a mom text me this morning, like right before I got on with you. She just said they were going through something. Her son had been to a camp before, really wanted to go again, but they just can't afford it. And camp is $75. So you have people that just want to hoop. They want to be around basketball. They just can't afford it. So we always raise any amount of signups we get, we always raise enough money to match the signups for scholarships. That makes sense. So we had a Christmas camp for free in my old high school, just within the inner city. Kids that, like I said, basketball is just youth basketball. AAU is just not what it used to be. And for me and for myself, and I don't think you should have to be a 6'6", 7th grader to be able to play on the AAU team for free. You know what I mean? So I know cost has to be in somewhere, but because something has to get paid for uniforms or whatever, but you don't have to hit the parents over the head. So we give a place for the kids to go, even the kids that maybe not be the greatest athletes, or you don't see basketball in their future. They may not make their high school team, but they love the sport. We show them ways, what you're doing. We talk to them about podcasting. They see it as, because we were doing this before I got with the Big Ten Network.
Right.
So now they see it differently when I'm talking about being a part of the game, but not being a player. So I think a lot of the kids in my community, when we were growing up, we were taught to be the player. You go hoop, like go play. We weren't really taught the media side of it, the back executive side of it, the coaching part of it. It just was kind of go play. But now we have the kids that are going to be really good. I think we have some kids that are going to play at a high level that come out of Fort Wayne or Lafayette or Indianapolis. But then we also have the kids where they just get a joy of talking basketball. So when they see me on the Big Ten Network on TV, and then they see me at camp the next week, it makes it realistic for them. You know what I mean? So we take different trips. We went to Purdue last year to we took 7 kids up to Purdue to the first time being on college campus. They got to go to Eric Hunter's basketball camp. We got to stay on campus. So we just do little different things like that. I mean, this last summer and this summer, we'll do it again. Deshaun Thomas, who played at Ohio State.
Absolutely.
He's from my neighborhood. He's from my neighborhood, and we have his summer league at the park. And we, like I said, we're trying to do things, not all old school, but we play outside. Tuesdays and Thursdays, we're at the park. We got 4 courts playing outside. Over 100 kids came out last year. We're expecting more this year. It's all free. We have the food trucks come out. I mean, and set up their stands. We always get the kids food. The ice cream trucks comes out. They get the jerseys. They get real referees. They play with real basketball, like the good basketballs. And we just hoop. And we do it in the area at the park where the city has located the danger zone of the town.
Right.
And they give it it's a time zone where it's a time in the day, I think it's 6 to 9, where they really don't want you to be outside, in a sense where they call it something high, like it's the highest level of crime at that time. So we did it at that park at that time. And we went 6 weeks, no problems, no situations. Right. Parents would come out, bring their lawn chair, bring the little kids. It just was like that old school family feel. The kids were enjoying it. So we're going to do that again this summer. So that's what my off season, I guess, looks like. And then come November, we're back into it.
Dude, that's heartwarming. I mean, that's awesome. Like, as someone who played, I mean, I obviously never played at your level, but basketball was like my first passion, right? And just to be able to go outside and hoop on an outdoor court or have some place to go, you're creating opportunities for these kids. And it's not just, like you said, it's not just about, will you get a Division I scholarship, yes or no? It's, meeting people that are going to have positive impacts in their life and helping them get to those areas. That's,
And one, And my bad. And this making me think because what you're saying. Because two things. My mentors that I had at that age, 6th, 7th grade, I still talk to them. Like one of them just texted me.
Right.
My 6th grade AAU coach, I still talk to him. My high school coach sends me a quote every morning. I put one of them on Twitter the other day. It went crazy. So, like, I have those same mentors that I've always had. And my thing was always to be, even though I had great mentors in my life, still be the adult that you wish you had around or be that adult that you wanted to be. So, you know what I mean? So that's my goal with it all. And then you see situations that I gotta talk about this forever, but see situations where you had a young man, it's a 6th grader last winter, he came to our Christmas camp, our first camp ever. His family reached out, we got connected, tough family situation. We got him a sponsorship to come to camp. His way of playing basketball was walking to the park, even if it was winters. Like he was going park to park, center to center. He was a guy that walked around the neighborhood, 6th grade. So we got him out to camp. Super happy to be there. Had a good day at camp. I called Indy Heat, the program Jaden Ivey played for, I played for, Greg Oden played. I mean, just a lot of it's one of the bigger programs in Indiana. They come out and see him the next day, and then the next day he's with their program now. So
That's
like
awesome.
You have a guy that wasn't even on a team, just no one knew him, and now he's the best 7th grader in town. You know what I mean? So like those stories are crazy.
You may never even know the full impact of how much that means to a lot of those kids. You know, that's something that growing up and people that I've worked with, like you never even realize sometimes how big of an impact you have, you know, and those people will impact other people. You're just creating this chain of positivity and you're putting it out there.
Yeah.
So we're going to put all that. I went to your website actually, so I saw some of this, but I love the background behind it, the purpose and the why. So we'll do whatever we can. We'll throw that on Twitter as well and get the word out. And, you know, like I said, we really appreciate you coming on the show, man. Like I would love to do it again at some point, maybe after the draft or before the season next year starts.
Yep. Just let me know when. I got you. Just let me know whenever, and we figure it out.
For sure, man. No, thank you so much. All right, everybody. That was today's show with Rapheal Davis. Love talking to him. As always, thank you for listening to Locked On Badgers, your first in every show, or your first show every day for all your Wisconsin Badger sports news and knowledge. You can find us on YouTube or on Twitter. Thank you again, everybody, and appreciate the time from Rapheal Davis.
Appreciate it.